Well, hello everybody. How are you doing today? I certainly hope you're doing fine. And I tell you what, I'm doing fine too. I really am. And I'm especially happy to be with you once again. Thank you very much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. And I would like to welcome all of you to another episode of TJ's Topics. I'm telling you, it is certainly a pleasure to be with you again. I consider it a joy, an honor, and a privilege to be able to come into your presence on any given occasion. Now, today, I want to share a brief little topic with you. And, I just, a lot of things I think about throughout the day and the week and the month and the year. And since we're coming to the latter part of this year, I definitely have a lot to think about, and I'm sure you do too. But here's the point that I want to drive home today. Don't let others control the narrative. That is the topic. Don't let others control the narrative. And it's very important that we do not allow other people to control the narrative because, you know, sometimes people have they have a way of screwing things up with respect to the way we live our lives, and they like to define us in certain ways that really don't fully describe us. They don't describe our character, our true nature, our mindset, our beliefs, our knowledge and understanding, you know, the way we live from day to day. But, people are good at that kind of thing. They like to assume things about you that are not true. They don't give you a chance to openly share with them who you are, or what you believe, or why you subscribe to this or that, why you do the things you do. So they like to draw their own conclusions. Society is good at that a lot of times. Society has a way of, you know, creating I would like to say, they like to make it seem as if there's something wrong with those who choose to do the opposite of what they deem to be normal. you know there are certain standards that are put in place, seem like from the time we're born. It's like we're expected to adhere to certain rules and regulations, and we have to comply to these standards, and we have to follow certain trends and abide by certain societal norms. But at the end of the day, doing all those things really doesn't make us happy. If anything, it makes us inauthentic. We're not being true to ourselves when we do things like that, you know, all in an effort to fit in with folks who, quite frankly, don't care that much about you anyway. But we want to be accepted by people. We want to be accepted by our families and our friends and neighbors and loved ones. We want to be accepted in the workplace by our coworkers and supervisors and stuff. And if you're in school, you want to feel a sense of belonging. Wherever you are, I don't care if it's school, on the job, in the church, anywhere in the community, wherever you go, and with whomever you deal, you want to feel like you belong there. Like you have there's a place for you. But sometimes in looking for acceptance, we tend to dance to the music of other people, allowing them to control the narrative. You know, we march to the beat of their drum, trying to make them feel good, you know, so that they'll be pleased with us, you know. And when you get through doing all that, you're not even pleased with yourself. And I tell you, that's a miserable feeling. And I think all of us have been there a time or two, you know. So when was the last time that you decided that you weren't going to allow anyone else to control the narrative in your life? You know, I don't care who it was a family member or so-called friend. You know, and you know, a lot of times we use that term friend very loosely because not everyone out here is worthy of the title friend. I think we have more associates in our lifetimes than we do friends. We, truth be told, most of us really don't have a lot of friends. You know, we have a lot of associates, people whom we deal with and, and stuff like that. But as far as friends go, nah, we don't. Most of us don't have that many friends. I know I don't. You know, at one time I thought I did because I used to be involved with a lot of things in the community and in the church, and used to deal with a lot of folks and stuff. They was inviting me to come to this and come to that and be a part of this and be a part of that. But as I started to get away from those things and those places, ultimately, those people started getting away from me because I was no longer allowing them to define me. You know, they were, in a sense, controlling the narrative of my life. You know, they were kind of, shaping my identity in a sense, you know, and they were trying to make me out to be something or someone that I knew I wasn't. So let's just say now that I'm at peace. I really am. I'm at peace in my alone time, and you know, I'm just not worried about that type of stuff anymore. I feel good about myself, and I hope you feel good about yourself too. And the older you get, the better you're going to feel about yourself when you have peace of mind and get away from around people who are always, you know, just keeping up a bunch of mess and starting a bunch of crap. So that concludes this discussion for today. Don't let others control the narrative. And, you know, I think that's something that we ought to keep in mind too as we enter this holiday season. Because sometimes when you get around your kinfolks on the holidays, you know, like we got Thanksgiving coming up, followed by Christmas, you know, and then the New Year, you know, your relatives, they like to ask a lot of old stupid questions and stuff and getting all in your business. And sometimes you just got to shut them down. You know, you don't want to be rude and disrespectful. And one reason why that is because you understand, at least I understand personally, that a lot of times when we get together with our families during the holidays, we have to keep in mind that there is at least one person in that room sitting around the dining room table having dinner with us who could possibly not be there with us next year. There is somebody in most every family having dinner with their, you know, with their relatives on Thanksgiving and Christmas this year that won't be there with them next year. And so that's the reason why we try not to be rude and disrespectful to them. But at the same time, you don't have to uh, um, suck up to them either. So thank you very much for tuning in to this episode of TJ's Topics. I really appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you again soon, okay? This is Taryn Jerome Harris reminding you that every round goes higher and higher. I'll talk to you later. Bye bye.